he spent $270 million to elect Trump as president. Okay. I think that's absurd that any one person.
What's the most someone donated towards the Harris campaign?
They spent a lot of money on Harris as well.
They spent $1.5 billion just
combined
over the course of a couple of months.
You got it. All right, let me talk about it. So
Yeah,
I'm not here
let's
just
talk
to say
about
it's
that.
a Republican. That's my point here.
Right.
Okay. So Musk spends that money, and what's his reward? He becomes the most powerful person in government for 3 or 4 months. Okay, fine.
In today's video, Bernie Sanders absolutely destroys Joe Rogan in a heated debate on lobbying and the current political climate on the Joe Rogan Experience. Joe Rogan tries to play the centrist card, asking real questions, but Bernie Sanders comes armed with receipts. At one point, it's almost uncomfortable watching Joe Rogan try to pivot, only for Bernie Sanders to slam him back down with cold, brutal facts about corporate influence and how it's poisoning both parties. So let's dive in and watch how Bernie Sanders shuts down Joe Rogan on the Joe Rogan Experience.
But what you have right now, and I just saw this the other day, you are a Republican member of Congress, okay? And you say, you know, there's a reconciliation bill, which we can talk about in a minute, that this is Trump's big, beautiful bill that's coming up literally on the floor of the Senate very shortly. So let's say you're a Republican representing a low-income district. And you say, you know, I got a lot of people on Medicaid in my district, and kids can't get to college, and I worry about food programs. I don't think it's a good idea to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut back on Medicaid. You make that announcement today. What happens to you?
It's over. You get attacked.
You finished.
The swarm comes for you.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's not a swarm. It's
the problem is it's already been established, right? That these laws have been established. The power has been given to these people. The money has started flowing, and it's been flowing for a long time now. And this is the issue with starting something that you can't stop.
Well, you can stop it.
You can stop
And
it.
you got to stop it.
Okay, but if you do stop it, all these people are going to throw all their money at stopping you from stopping it, correct? Right?
Exactly.
They're going to come up with the best commercials with American flags. This country's all about competition and freedom.
You got it.
The freedom to donate to the party of your choice.
You got it.
Yeah.
Good.
Stop these communists.
Hey, stop. You're writing their ads for them. They're going to pick it up. With the American,
I could write them.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
really.
could all write. But then we got to take a deep breath and figure out where do we go from there. Now, I wanted to, in my point, as you know, I am the longest serving independent in American history.
Yes.
I caucus with the Democrats, I always have, but you ain't going to hear me defending the Democratic Party on this issue because you're right. During the election, it wasn't just Musk and Republicans putting a lot of money into Trump. It was Democratic billionaires putting a lot of money into Kamala and into other candidates as well. And I mentioned there's a guy named, I don't even know his first name, Mr. Massey. Is that name ring a bell?
Thomas Massey.
Thomas from Kentucky.
Yeah.
And this guy, as I am, is opposed to this war in Iran. Just yesterday, Trump gave a long post about how they're going to primary this guy. And what bothers me is you would hope that there would be respect enough for members of Congress that you can vote your own conscience. You could, represent your constituency. Every district is different in America. But right now, anybody stands up and say, well, I disagree with President Trump. Bam, you are finished. We're going to primary you. We got all kinds of money. You're out of there. That happened to Massey yesterday. But let me go back to the Democrats and tell you where the problem.
Can I point something out? Don't you think that there's a Streisand effect to that? Don't you think that there's a blowback for that kind of thing when people recognize that this guy should be allowed to have his own opinions and make some reasonable points, and that people are going to reject this idea?
Maybe.
And that it's not as simple as I think the whole MAGA thing right now is very divided, particularly because one of the things that they voted for was no war. Well, now it seems like we're in a war, right? So and it's quick. We're 6 months in, and that's already popped off. And then people are very concerned with now what happens to our troops overseas that are in these bases, that are in vulnerable positions, and what happens with, there's supposedly documented terror cells that got in through the open border over the last 4 years. So what happens now in America? What happens on American soil?
Sure.
Now, Bernie Sanders calls out the cold hard facts. Our democracy is drowning in billionaire money. Elon Musk dropping $270 million to elect Trump isn't patriotism, it's legalized bribery. And Bernie Sanders doesn't stop there. He rightly points out that this isn't just a right-wing problem. Democratic mega-donors are just as guilty of distorting policy and democracy with their wallets. But the most powerful moment came when Bernie Sanders talked about how any Republican who dares to break from Trump, like Republican Thomas Massie opposing war, is instantly targeted, buried under PAC money, and primaried into oblivion. That's not democracy, that's a billionaire-controlled reality show. And yes, while Joe Rogan tried to pivot into border panic and terror cells, the usual MAGA fear cycle, Bernie Sanders kept it grounded. The real threat isn't desperate migrants or foreign boogeymen. It's the domestic erosion of democracy by corporate greed and unchecked lobbying. Joe Rogan might have the louder mic, but Bernie Sanders had the receipts. And this debate showed exactly why Bernie's message is still cutting through. Because he's not just calling out one side, he's calling out the whole rigged game.
No, I mean, I agree with those.
When a guy like Thomas Massie steps up and says something like that, he's going to have a lot more support as well.
The answer is yes. And my only point is he has a right.
Yes.
You know, somebody else says, hey, I think the war is a great idea. Fine, that's your view. You got to go back. But what bothers me is that if anybody stands up, the next day, we're going to primary. You're out of here, man. And that's the Republicans. Let me talk about the Democrats for a moment, okay? And I don't even know your views on this, so you may disagree with me. You know, Israel was attacked by Hamas, and Hamas is a terrible terrorist organization. They killed 1,200 people, which in a small country like Israel is a lot of people. Terrible, terrible attack. It's a war crime. Israel had a right, in my view, to defend itself. But the Netanyahu government did not have a right to kill 52,000 people in Gaza, wound well over 100,000. And right now, as we speak, Joe, children are starving to death because of Israel's blockades.
Yeah.
Starving to death. And I brought forth two resolutions, which basically were very simple, and they said no more U.S. military aid to Israel under these conditions. One vote got 15 votes in the Senate, the other one got 16. Do you think that members of the Senate do not know what's going on in Gaza? The kids are starving to death. The innocent people are being shot down right and left. They know it. Why do you think I couldn't get more votes?
They wouldn't vote against Israel.
Right.
It's political suicide.
Now you're talking.
Right.
All right. So in the Republican side, you have moneyed interests saying you speak up against Trump, you're out of here. In the Democratic side, you speak up against the Netanyahu government, you're out of here as well. And they have been successful. You have super PACs like AIPAC spending a fortune. You stand, and they have already knocked off a number of members of Congress, good members of Congress, and they will do it again. So all I'm saying is you got a corrupt campaign finance system on both sides, which is rejecting the will of the American people and end up supporting powerful special interests. And if we do not get a handle on that issue, I worry very much about the future of American democracy.
While Joe Rogan kept a relatively neutral MAGA-leaning posture, Bernie brought receipts and passion. He broke down how lobbying and billionaire influence have hijacked both parties. It's not just about campaign contributions anymore. It's about political survival. You speak out against Trump in the GOP, you're done. You criticize Netanyahu in the Democratic Party, super PACs like AIPAC will end your career. Bernie Sanders' strongest moment, his moral clarity on Gaza. While acknowledging Hamas's crime, he drew a firm line against Israel's response. Tens of thousands dead, children starving, US weapons fueling it all. And yet, when he pushed for even the mildest checks on military aid, he barely got 15 votes in the Senate. Why? Not because his colleagues don't know what's happening, but because they're afraid of donors, of primaries, of losing power. And the facts back him up. AIPAC spent over $40 million in the 2022 cycle alone, targeting progressives like Summer Lee and Andy Levin. Corporate lobbyists spent over $4 billion last year influencing Congress, more than the entire GDP of some countries. Bernie's point isn't just about corruption, it's about the future of democracy. If voters keep getting drowned out by billionaires and foreign lobby groups, we're not electing leaders anymore.
Are you going to run for president again?
I am 83 years of age.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure the American people will be enthusiastic on somebody's 108.
You're still very with it.
Thank you.
You are.
Well,
I mean, you're a couple years older than Biden,
yeah.
right? Think of that.
Yeah.
You could be off a lot worse.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So we have been running around the country doing what we call the Fighting Oligarchy Tour, which is why I'm here in Texas. We were in Fort Worth last night, had a good turnout. And I think, interestingly enough, Joe, it's not most of the people. We know the people who come out to our rallies. We have a big list of millions of people. But a lot of people are coming to our rallies that we don't know, and I think we know that some of them are Republicans and some of them are independents. Many of them are independents. Because I think across the board, there is growing dissatisfaction with the current politics in America, both parties. And people want a new vision for America, which is also something we don't talk a whole lot about. So, the issues that we talk about is in the richest country on earth, why don't we have the best healthcare system in the world? Why do we have 85 million people who are uninsured or uninsured? And as you were mentioning a moment ago, he deals with the insurance companies and the drug companies. And the function of the current healthcare system is to make these guys very rich, and it works. They make zillions of dollars. And every place you go, in my state, the cost of healthcare is going up this year like 10, 15%. People can't afford it. And we lose thousands of people every year. People get sick. They can't afford to go to the doctor. They die. So, one of the fights that I hope we can win is to have the United States join every other major country on earth and guarantee health care to all people as a human right.
Well, we've talked about that a lot on this show, that if you view this country as a community, the most important thing is to protect the most vulnerable members of your community, period, right?
I agree.
And if we spend insane amounts of money on all sorts of things that people don't agree with, and I think generally most people would agree on some sort of a national healthcare system.
They do.
Most people. Like there's concepts of socialism that everyone agrees with. One of them is the fire department. Right? Everyone thinks that every citizen should have access, the same equal access to the fire department. And we all pay into that.
That's right.
And we all believe in education. We all believe that there should be free public education.
That's right.
And most people believe that the university system should also be funded. It would benefit everyone.
You got it.
It would benefit everyone to have more educated people that are doing better in the world. You'd have better GDP. You'd have more successful people.
Absolutely right.
If you want to make America great again, less losers. How do you make less losers? Don't stack the deck against them. One of the first things that you'd have to do is figure out why these communities and these cities have been the exact same way for decade after decade. Back to Jim Crow and the Red Line laws and all these. Why is nothing being done to fix that or to correct that problem? And it becomes this political beach ball that they just bounce around the air at a concert, and everybody. It's like there's certain things that just keep coming up that make you just go, well, how are we still talking about gay marriage? How is that still coming up? And it's like, poof, throw it up in the air.
All right, let me get back to that. But I want to say
there's a bunch of these things, right?
All right. The first point you made. You want to make America great? Right.
Yeah,
have the best,
less losers.
Have the best educated workforce in the world. How's
Yes,
that? Radical
yes.
idea? I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Right.
And you're absolutely right.
Better education.
You
and
live
healthcare.
longer when you have better education, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Let's start with Bernie Sanders' core point. America is the richest country in the world, so why do we treat healthcare like a luxury item? He pointed out that over 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured, and thousands die every year simply because they can't afford to see a doctor. That's not freedom, that's cruelty baked into a for-profit system, and the data backs him up. A 2023 Commonwealth Fund study found the US ranks dead last in healthcare access and outcomes compared to other developed nations, despite spending more per capita than anyone else. Bernie Sanders also hit hard on campaign finance and lobbying, rightly calling out how both parties are bought and sold by billionaires and special interests, whether it's AIPAC spending tens of millions to crush progressives or GOP donors threatening to primary anyone who steps out of line. It's clear big money controls both sides. Joe Rogan even agreed here, because you don't need to be a Democrat to see that democracy doesn't work when billionaires are writing the rules. And then there's education. Bernie Sanders' vision of investing in public education, including tuition-free college, isn't radical. It's just common sense. Countries like Germany, Finland, and Norway have already done it, and their students outperform ours regularly. Meanwhile, US student loan debt is now over $1.7 trillion, crushing the very people we say we want to empower.
Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story, so you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.